What's the wildest thing you've ever done? Now imagine taking that to an extreme level where things go so catastrophically wrong that it earns you a spot on the infamous Darwin Awards list. Today we're exploring the mind-blowing stories of people whose decisions were so reckless, they made headlines and left us shaking our heads. Grab your popcorn and buckle up because it's time to be entertained. Hello everyone, welcome to another mind-blowing episode of Wow Amazing. Today we're diving into Volume 11 of our Top 10 Most Stupid Darwin Award winners. These folks have gone above and beyond in their quest to remove themselves from the gene pool, and we're here to celebrate their, achievements. 10. Frozen Fortune Folly. A quiet night at a Burger King, a stolen duffel bag stuffed with $4,000 in cash, and a diabolical plan destined for disaster. Our story begins with Lisa, a 22-year-old night manager, and her 34-year-old partner in crime, the day manager. They cooked up what they believed was the perfect heist, one so clever it would leave them rich and untouchable. But as you'll soon see, their poorly thought out plan would leave one of them out in the cold, literally. Lisa would play the victim, duct taping herself and locking herself in the restaurant's walk-in cooler. Her partner would set a small, controlled fire to destroy evidence and divert attention while making his getaway with the cash. The fire was supposed to alert the local fire department, who would rush in, extinguish the flames, and rescue Lisa from her icy prison. Once everything cooled down, pun intended, the two of them planned to rendezvous and split the stolen money. But as we all know, even the best-laid plans often go awry. This one wasn't even close to being well thought out. The small fire they set in a wastebasket failed to attract any immediate attention. Instead of erupting into the dramatic blaze they had envisioned, it smoldered slowly and quietly through the night, unnoticed by passers-by or neighboring businesses. As the hours ticked by, Lisa remained trapped in the walk-in cooler. With temperatures plummeting well below freezing, when the morning shift finally arrived, the smoldering fire reignited as oxygen from the open door fanned its embers. Only then did the fire department arrive, not for a daring rescue, but to extinguish a mundane, slow-burning flame. When firefighters found Lisa, she was semi-conscious and suffering from severe hypothermia. They rushed her to the hospital, but despite their best efforts, she succumbed to her injuries. Her accomplice, meanwhile, didn't get far. Investigators quickly unraveled their half-baked plan, and he was arrested for his role in the tragic fiasco. This tale is a sobering reminder of how overconfidence and a lack of foresight can lead to catastrophic outcomes. All for what? A few $1,000s that weren't even worth the cost of their ill-conceived plan. So what do you think? Was this the worst heist plan ever? Or have you heard of something even more absurd? Let us know in the comments, and remember, crime doesn't pay, especially when it's this cold-blooded. Our next contestant proves that when it comes to dangerous ideas, sometimes bigger isn't better. It's just explosively worse. 9. When pest control goes nuclear. In the heart of Rushinga, Zimbabwe, Christian, a farmer with an elephant problem and a solution that would make military generals cringe. Elephants raid your maize field is definitely a serious issue. These magnificent creatures can destroy a season's worth of crops in one night. But Christian's solution? Well, let's just say it was explosive. Instead of using traditional deterrents like fences, noisemakers, or literally anything else, Christian looked at a nearby minefield on the Zimbabwe-Mozambique border and thought, now there's an idea. Mind you, this wasn't a random decision. He had recent evidence of the mine's effectiveness. Just the week before, one local resident had been injured picking up a mine, and another had lost part of their leg in a separate incident. Most people would see these as warnings. Christian saw them as product demonstrations. In what might be the most ill-conceived recycling project ever, our innovative farmer decided to dig up 5 landmines that had been exposed by recent heavy rains. Because apparently when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, and when life gives you landmines, you try to use them as elephant scarecrows. The truly ironic part of this story is that while Christian was carrying his collected deterrents home, the unstable mines detonated, proving once and for all that landmines make terrible agricultural tools. And the elephants, they remained completely unharmed, probably watching from a safe distance while wondering why humans make things so complicated. It seems like every poor decision has its own unique flavor of disaster. Our next story proves that modern technology can be just as deadly when combined with a little carelessness. 8. When waterproof meets electricity. In 2016, Richard decided to combine his evening bath with some phone time, something many of us are probably guilty of. However, he took things a step further by bringing a charging iPhone into the equation. He plugged the charger into an extension cord and, in what would prove to be a fatal mistake, rested it on his chest while enjoying his bath. The resulting accident was so preventable that the coroner actually planned to write to Apple about adding warning labels, because apparently we now need to explicitly tell people that mixing electrical outlets with bathtubs is a bad idea. The truly sobering part of this story is that it's becoming increasingly common. Our addiction to staying connected is literally putting lives at risk. The physics is simple. A phone running on battery? Probably fine. A phone connected to mains electricity? That's playing Russian roulette with 120 volts. 7. What's that ringing? Our next story takes us to California's Silicon Valley, where tech geniuses and impatient drivers collide, literally. Meet Sivanga, a woman whose confidence behind the wheel was only matched by her complete disregard for flashing lights, ringing bells, and, oh yeah, giant metal trains. It all went down on March 4th, 2000. Sivanga was in a hurry, and apparently she thought the laws of physics didn't apply to her. A line of cars patiently waiting for a train to pass, crossing gates lowered, lights flashing, and bells ringing loud enough to wake the dead. But not Sivanga. Nope. She looked at that scene and thought, rules? Pfft, not for me. Channeling her inner fast and furious stunt driver, she swerved around the line of cars, gunned her engine, and made a beeline for the railroad crossing. Now, most of us would hear a warning bell and think, hey, maybe I shouldn't challenge the giant speeding train. But Sivanga, she probably thought, I can totally make it. Spoiler alert, she could not make it. In a split second, her car collided with the train, which, as you might imagine, did not budge. The result? Sivanga was tragically killed, and 3 of her family members were injured in the crash. But don't worry, the train was fine. Here's the kicker. She had every possible warning. Flashing lights? Check. Loud bells? Check. A massive train barreling down the tracks? Double check. Yet somehow she thought her schedule was more important than the laws of common sense or survival. When it comes to crossing train tracks, patience isn't just a virtue, it's how you avoid becoming a headline. Remember, that giant metal beast on rails doesn't care how late you are to brunch. Let's shift gears to a story from Italy that gives new meaning to the phrase, love at first drive. 6. When love takes a wrong turn. In May 2000, young lovers Germano and Francisca decided to combine 2 activities that should definitely remain separate: intimate relations and high-speed driving. Now we get it. Living with parents in Italy can make private moments hard to come by, but their solution to this common problem was anything but common. A small Italian car racing along winding Abruzzen roads at speeds over 80 miles per hour, while the occupants were, shall we say, otherwise occupied. The investigating officers found the couple almost completely naked, which answered some questions but raised so many more. Like, of all the places in romantic Italy, the country of Romeo and Juliet, mind you, why choose a moving vehicle on a curvy road? Were all the beaches closed? Had every hotel in Italy suddenly vanished? The car predictably lost control on a bend, bringing their high-speed romance to a tragic end. It's a sobering reminder that some things in life really are worth waiting for, or at least parking for. From one shocking story to another, let's take a trip back to 1993 in Toronto, where a lawyer's confidence in skyscraper engineering led to one of the most dramatic and tragic demonstrations of all time. 5. When confidence hits rock bottom. Meet Gary, a 39-year-old lawyer and a shining star at his prestigious 200-person law firm. Gary wasn't just known for his legal prowess. He had a flair for theatrics and a penchant for impressing people, particularly visiting law students. One of his favorite party tricks? Demonstrating the strength of skyscraper windows in the Toronto Dominion Bank Tower. During these demonstrations, Gary would lean or throw his shoulder into the glass to prove its durability. Time and again, the glass held firm, wowing his audience and leaving them convinced of the building's top-notch design. But as we've learned from every entry on this list, tempting fate is a risky game. On this particular day, Gary's audience of eager law students looked on as he prepared to show off his signature move. With a confident smile, he hurled himself shoulder first into the window, but this time, the pain didn't hold. Instead of bouncing back with a triumphant grin, Gary crashed straight through the glass, plummeting 24 floors into the courtyard below. Emergency responders confirmed that Gary died on impact. His colleagues were left stunned, describing him as one of the best and brightest in the firm. But even the brightest among us aren't immune to the consequences of poor decisions. Gary's legacy may have been in law, but his tragic mistake immortalized him in the annals of Darwin Award history. 4. Human hitching post. Hold on to your saddles because this next story is a wild ride. Literally, a young, spirited Arabian horse, a frustrated owner, and a plan so disastrously flawed it could only end in disaster. It all started in Nevada, where 29-year-old Andrea was working with her prized Arabian horse. She'd won the majestic creature in a lottery the year before. But as any horse owner will tell you, owning one of these beauties isn't all galloping through meadows. This horse wasn't just spirited, it was a bundle of raw, untamed energy. It didn't take kindly to commands, and every time Andrea tried to slip on its bridle, the horse threw its head back, turning what should have been a simple task into a battle of wills. But Andrea wasn't about to give up. No, she had a brilliant idea. At least that's what she thought. Her plan? Tie one end of a rope around the horse's head and the other end around her waist. That way, she'd have both hands free to secure the bridle. Smart, right? Or maybe not. Horses are massive creatures, packing enough muscle to haul wagons, plow fields, and apparently turn humans into rag dolls. The moment Andrea looped the rope around herself, the horse spooked. And when a half-ton of sheer muscle decides it's done playing nice, you'd better hope you're not tied to it. The horse bolted, yanking Andrea off her feet like a feather in the wind. She was dragged across the paddock at breakneck speed, the short rope keeping her dangerously close to the animal's thundering hooves. The panicked horse didn't stop running, and Andrea had no chance to untangle herself. By the time the chaos ended, Andrea's fate was sealed. Deputy Sheriff Lance Modespasher summed it up best. Horses are 500 times stronger than people, and Andrea learned that the hard way. Let this be a lesson. When dealing with a creature that weighs 5 times more than you, don't tie yourself to it. Let's turn our attention to an explosive misadventure that involves a train station, a ticket machine, and a whole lot of bad judgment. 3. The ticket machine takedown. In 2017, a 31-year-old man decided to revolutionize the way we pay for train tickets. And by revolutionize, I mean literally blow up a ticket machine. Our protagonist began his evening, like many bad decisions do, at a local bar. After a few drinks, because alcohol and explosives are clearly a winning combination, he came up with what he probably thought was a foolproof plan. Step 1, acquire several cans of aerosol spray. Step 2, empty said cans into a ticket vending machine. Step 3, profit. Now you might be wondering about his technique. Well, our innovative friend meticulously sprayed multiple cans of aerosol into the machine, carefully placed the empty cans in a jute bag, because even would-be criminals can care about proper recycling, and then proceeded to ignite the gas. Environmental consciousness meets criminal misconduct. What a time to be alive. The resulting explosion was powerful enough to rip the metal front panel clean off the machine. Unfortunately, it also proved fatal for our amateur demolitions expert, who suffered severe shrapnel wounds and a substantial head injury. A bar acquaintance recognized him and called for emergency help. But despite resuscitation efforts, our friend had purchased his last ticket, a one-way journey to the Darwin Awards. The true irony? The cost of a train ticket was probably significantly less than the price he ultimately paid. Sometimes the express route isn't the best way to go. From one explosive mishap to another, our next story dives into a treasure hunt that proves some quests are better left to fiction, or at the very least, to those with a plan. 2. The Treasure Hunter's Tale. In 2020, Michael became obsessed with The Thrill of the Chase, a book by art dealer Forrest Fenn that claimed to contain clues to a buried treasure worth $2 million. Despite the fact that 350,000 other people had already tried and failed to find this treasure, and 4 people had died in the attempt, Michael was convinced he had cracked the code. Because obviously, those other 350,004 people just weren't reading the 9 cryptic verses of poetry correctly. In February 2020, Michael convinced a 65-year-old friend to join him on what would become the first of 2 ill-fated expeditions to Dinosaur National Monument. The first attempt ended with both men being rescued, shivering and close to death. Most people would take this as a sign from the universe to maybe find a new hobby, but not Michael. Oh no, he saw it as a practice run. His preparation for this multi-million-dollar treasure hunt, a few candy bars, 2 bottles of water, and his trusty copy of Fenn's book. Because apparently, when you're hunting for millions in gold, all you need is a snack pack and optimism. Search teams found Michael's body near the exact spot where he'd been rescued a month earlier. His friend barely survived and to this day refuses to talk about what happened. 1. The tombstoning footballer. And now for our number one spot, we present Murad Lammerbat, a Dutch football pro who in 2022 decided to turn a Mallorca vacation into an extreme sports event. Spoiler alert, it didn't end well. You're standing on a cliff in beautiful Mallorca, Spain. It's 30 meters, that's about 100 feet, above the water. Most people would take a selfie, maybe shoot a nice vacation video. But Murad, he decided to attempt what's known as tombstoning, jumping off cliffs feet first into water below, because apparently being a professional footballer wasn't exciting enough. Let's talk about the math that our athletic friend ignored. 30 meters is higher than Olympic diving platforms. To reach safe water, you need to clear 10 meters horizontally from the cliff face. That's like trying to score a goal while falling off a 10-story building. Even Cristiano Ronaldo would say, nah, I'm good to that one. The physics are brutal at impact. He was traveling at 88 kilometers per hour, 55 miles. The same speed as being hit by a car on the highway. And yes, he had his family film the whole thing, because nothing says vacation memories, quite like recording your own Darwin Award submission. The most tragic part? This wasn't even a spontaneous decision. He actually instructed his family to film it, let out a triumphant yodel because why not, and then leaped into the abyss. The stunt went viral, but not for the reasons he hoped. Bonus entry, stubbed out. For our final bonus story, we're lighting up a fiery tale from England that proves some people just refuse to listen to good advice, even when their life depends on it. Meet Philip, a 60-year-old man whose stubbornness went up in flames. The year was 2006, and Philip was in the hospital receiving treatment for a skin condition. His doctors prescribed a paraffin-based cream to soothe his symptoms, but there was one big catch. The cream was flammable. Naturally, they warned Philip in no uncertain terms, do not smoke while using this treatment. Sounds simple, right? Not for Philip. Philip was a man who lived by his own rules. Rules that apparently didn't include listening to medical professionals. Smoking was banned on the ward, but that didn't stop him. Craving his nicotine fix, he snuck out onto the fire escape, lit up, and took a deep, satisfying drag. For a brief, blissful moment, all was right in his world. But peace turned to peril the second he finished his cigarette. As he ground the butt under his heel, he learned the hard way that paraffin cream doesn't just vanish, it soaks into your clothing. And in the blink of an eye, the sparks from his smoldering cigarette ignited his pajamas. Philip suffered severe burns over most of his body. Despite the best efforts of medical staff, his rebellious streak ultimately cost him his life. Let this be a cautionary tale. If your doctor tells you something is flammable, it's not a suggestion. It's a survival guide. Cigarettes may give you a buzz, but they're no match for a paraffin-fueled inferno. Well, there you have it, guys. From love-struck couples to explosive ticket machine disasters, these Darwin Award winners sure knew how to take reckless decisions to an entirely new level. Also, hit that subscribe button and smash that bell icon so you're one of the first ones to get wowed every time we upload a new video. And hey, share this video with a friend who could use a good laugh, or maybe a reminder about how not to live. Until next time, stay safe, stay smart, and whatever you do, don't try any of this at home.